Good morning. Today we look at Psalm 20, 21, and 22. And Psalms 20 and 21 go together. Psalm 20 is a prayer for victory in battle, and Psalm 21 is a prayer of thanksgiving after the victory in the battle. You know, Psalm 20 begins, "The Lord answer you in a day of trouble. The name of God protect you. May he send you help from his sanctuary. May he grant your heart's desire. May we shout for joy over the victory." And then confidence. Now in verse 6, "Now I know that the Lord will help his anointed. He will answer him with mighty victories at his right hand." So it's, and then the very last verse, "Give victory to the King, O Lord. Answer when we call." So it's a song that, that would be sung as they're going to battle or before they're going to battle. And it's asking God to help, and it's stating confidence as well in God, I know that the Lord will help his anointed. And, David was indeed God's anointed king, the second king of Israel that way. And he was with mighty victories by his right hand. And, as we read stories about, King Saul, King David, and others previously in the Old Testament, we know the victories in the battles that were won by the different kings and wars and everything that broke out, and some other battles that weren't so good either. But, it was the prayer before going into battle. And so often, we start our days, and just going at it ourselves. And we decide we're going to fight our battles on our own. And I've mentioned this before, but a friend of mine who's a pastor visiting someone in the hospital asked, "Well, can I offer a prayer?" "Oh, I'm not that sick yet." It's just, didn't need God's help quite yet. Going to wait till it got a little worse. But, aren't we better off when we ask God's blessing at the beginning of the day and give thanks, at the end of the day? We can ask God's blessings at the end of the day too, and give thanks in the morning. But, it's when we're facing something, even if it's just a brand new day, why not start it with asking God to be a part of our day and to walk with us? And Psalm 21 then starts, "In your strength the king rejoices, and in your help how he exults. You have given him his heart's desire." He's won the battle. He's been victorious in the challenge. You have not withheld the request of his lips. You met him with rich blessings, set a crown of fine gold on his head. And, so it's again that thanks. And we see that is verse 8 again. "Your hand will find out all your enemies, and your right hand will find out those who hate you. You'll make it like a fiery furnace. The Lord will swallow him up in his wrath." And so that confidence that God has granted, the victory. The battle is won, and Christ is the victor. God is the victor. And here, King David was the victor in the battles, and the Lord will swallow them up with his wrath. The fire will consume them. You'll destroy their offspring, their children from them, it's just, you're going to destroy my enemies. And this is a promise, from God to each and every one of us, that, we don't have to fear sin, death, the power of the devil, because Christ has already won that battle. Granted, there's a fight every day. Granted, Satan is working his best every day to get us into trouble, to steer us away from God, to get us to say we don't need God, or there is no God. But yet God is always there. And this last verse of Psalm 21, "Be exalted, O Lord, in your strength. We will sing and praise your name and your power." And so it's this thanksgiving for God walking daily with us. Maybe we should look at it that way, that, it's because every day has challenges. And so we start every day with this request to God to lead us, to guide us, to help us be victorious over the challenges of the day, and then, to give thanks when those challenges are met, and, give God those thanks. Psalm 22, spend a little more time on that one. It's a psalm that we are more familiar, well, maybe not more familiar, but we hear Jesus, one of the final statements of Jesus from the cross of, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And that's the way Psalm 22 begins. And, why are you so far from helping me? Why can't you hear my groaning? Oh God, I cry, but you don't answer. And by night I find no rest. And, I remember reading this on Good Friday as the altar and everything is stripped, and you get to that verse 14, I'm poured out like water, my bones are out of joint. It's just such a feeling of loss, of abandonment, of just, where are you, God? And I'm getting a little ahead of where I want to be yet, but yeah. And so when I read the story of the crucifixion, and I hear Jesus say those words, or I read that Jesus says those words, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? In my mind, I trust that Jesus knew this whole psalm. I mean, these psalms were the songs of praise and of thanks and of requests that they would sing to God. And, Psalm 22 is, according to the Deer of the Dawn. That's the name of the melody that they used. And so Jesus would know this psalm, and he would know that this psalm ends with praise, with absolute trust and, promise of God. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But these first verses, that I read, my God, why hast thou forsaken me, is a cry for help. And this is Jesus on the cross. He's crying out to God for strength to get through. I mean, in the Garden of Garden of Gethsemane, he had prayed, not my will, but thy will be done. If it's possible, let this pass me by, but give me strength to do your will. Give me strength to see this through. And so in this psalm, he cries out this cry for help. And then the next verse is, he knows who God is. He says, yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted. To you they cried and they were saved. And so he knows the history of God being faithful to his people. And so he cries out for help. Where are you? Why have you forsaken me? He states that I know that you've always been faithful to your people. You called the Israelites to be your people, and you've always been faithful to them. And then verses 6, why I am a worm, not human, scorned by others. All who see me mock, I'm not worthy. I am a worm among others. It's just, what am I that God is mindful of me? We read that in the Bible too, but so here it's that, we've got the, cry for help, knowing, or your statement of knowing that God is faithful to his people, and then I am not worthy. And then verse 9, you took me from my mother's womb. You kept me safe on her breast. Once I was cast from my birth, you have been my God. Do not be far from me. Again, so, God has been with me. That absolute trust and belief that God has been with him. And then verse 12 again, when the bulls are surrounding me, he's in trouble, and I am poured out like water, my bones are out of joint. Again, that feeling of helplessness. And when Jesus is nailed to the cross, he is helpless. He's dying there. So he's totally dependent upon God. And then verse 19, but you, O Lord, do not be far away. Oh, come quickly. Come close to me. Let me feel your presence. And I truly believe that Jesus felt that presence, because he went on to say, into your hands I commend my spirit. He trusted. And you who fear the Lord, praise him. And then verse 24, he did not despise or abhor the affliction, and he did not hide his face from me, but he heard me when I cried out to him. And then it goes on with all the nations will worship him in verse 27. And I shall live for him, the end of verse 29. And then verse 31, I will proclaim his deliverance to a people yet unborn, saying he has done it. God has been faithful. God has heard my cry, and God has walked with me. And so this psalm that we hear Jesus utter those first words, my God, why hast thou forsaken me, has all of this in it. And it's a hauntingly beautiful psalm in so many ways. And, you know, it's got so much to it with all of the cry out, the feeling of unworthiness, but yet knowing that God is faithful. And that's such an important thing for us to believe too, that God is faithful.